the 80s. For me, a magical period of wonder and amazement. When kids played outside all day long without a second thought. When your parents would beat you to death if you talked back. A time when gas was cheaper than beer. Cabbage Patch Kids and Care Bears were on the rise. Transformers and G.I. Joe were transporting our imaginations to unreachable heights and draining our parents' wallets. Getting ready for school and watching the Bozo Show on WGN. Eating your favorite sugary substance in droves. Saturday morning cartoons! What a fantastic era for an adolescence.
Needless to say, I love the 80s because that was the era I was pretty much born in and grew up in, and I mean, there's nothing I could say to give it justice. It was just a fantastic time. And also, it was the era that I, myself, were introduced to video games. Tell you a story. Christmas 82, I believe. 81 or 82. We're getting ready for Christmas. Christmas Eve, my parents were the kind of parents who would let you open one gift on Christmas Eve. So I picked a strange little rectangular box, and in it was Space Invaders. I'm like, what is this? They're like, you'll find out in the morning. So during the night, I looked at it and I opened it up and looked at the papers and stuff and kind of got a gist of what it was. And the next morning, I opened up the Atari 2600. It was like, man, this looks like a time machine. And technically it was. My dad hooked it up for me with his screwdriver and wrenches and hooked the little forks to the back of the TV, and everything was it was off for me after that. I played Atari all the time up until probably 2 years later, around the time the video game crash happened. And you know, as a kid in the 80s, like I said before, you played outside more than anything. You didn't want to be cramped up inside. And I lived way out in the middle of nowhere, so my friends came and went. So I didn't see them too often, except the ones that lived around where I lived. So needless to say, I was outside most of the time. One day I got my dad asked me, you want me to hook up that Atari again? Get it out the attic? I was like, yeah. So he hooked it back up and started playing some more, and then an uncle of mine or one of my dad's friends, I can't remember, gave me another Atari and like 50 games. So I had even more selection, and I had the weird keypad thing for can't remember, Star Control or something like that. Never could figure it out. Had E.T. and just all the classics. And as fate would have it, a kid moved into the trailer park that we ran at the time. And I got to know the kid. We played and stuff. Went in his house one day, he invited me in to play. And he had one of these bad boys. I was like, whoa, what is that thing? He turned me on to Super Mario Brothers. I had never once in my life been completely enthralled with anything like Super Mario Brothers. It was the most fantastical, just unbelievable thing I'd ever seen in my life. So from then on, you might as well say I was hooked on video games, especially when I finally got my own. But that's for episode 2. This episode, I'm gonna focus on the system that started it all for me, the Atari 2600 or the Atari VCS. Any way you wanna label it. We're just gonna look through a few of the old basic games that I started out with, and just come reminisce with me. Be a good time.
Space Invaders. Well, this game was just this is the one, people. This is the one that brought me into the fold. God, me and my dad played this game so much. My dad even liked this game. He's not really a gamer. He liked this, Mario Brothers, and Duck Hunt, and that was it. Yep, old Space Invaders. I love shooting things and just the challenge and the. You just gotta plan your attack and plan your strategy, and it was at the time a real thinking man's game. You had to be careful. Yep, good old Space Invaders. I didn't even know anything about arcades back then. I had seen like the outside of one once. It was called Aladdin's Castle, and my mother wouldn't let me go in. She let me go in there after a while, but at first she was like, "That place is evil." Because we were some holy rollers back then. But yeah, I'd never even known there was an arcade version of this, and that's what this was based off of. So this was the first time I'd ever seen Space Invaders or heard of it. God, we had so much fun with this game. Simple but challenging. One button games. I mean, how can you beat it? Next up, the old classic Pac-Man. This came with my Atari 2600. And I had vaguely seen Miss Pac-Man in my grandpa owned a gas station in Newton, Mississippi, and he had the Miss Pac-Man arcade game, so I had played a little of that. And up until this point, I'd never really played the actual Pac-Man. So, just like Space Invaders, this was the first time I'd ever played Pac-Man. And I thought this was the standard. I was like, wow, this is fun, man. You go around the maze and eat the dots and avoid the ghostesses and power pellets and all that good stuff. Pac-Man's a circle, kind of, and the sound effects are cool, and that music and the sound effects, you never forget it if you grew up with the Atari 2600. They're so awesome. Yep, my dad enjoyed this one also, like I said. But yeah, it's Pac-Man. Waka 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 wonka. Even though back then it was dink 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 dink. But that's okay. As AVGNs had said, you had to use your imagination with a lot of these Atari 2600 games, as primitive as they were, but revolutionary in more ways than one. I believe if it wasn't for video games, media in a whole wouldn't be what it is now. It opened the doors for so much in our society that we depend on. So all you kids nowadays with your TikToks and your Instagrams and all that stuff, this is what you need to pay homage to, because if it weren't for video games, cell phones and social media wouldn't be what they are, if anything, today. So, big round of applause for Atari 2600 for all video games, Odyssey and everything. Space War, debatable, the very first video game ever made. And then we moved to Pitfall. You can see as the years went by, the programmers were getting a little more creative with their programming. This game had pretty fluid animation for a 4-bit game on a home console. I always thought it was 2-bit, but I just found out recently it was in between 3 and 4. So it was pretty amazing at the time. And this game was a little more easier to swallow because you had a timer, but you didn't really need it because it just goes on and on and on and on. You just have to time your jumps right. That's basically all it was. I tried so hard to beat this game back in the day. It was, man, I got really, really far on it at one point. I was picking up treasures I'd never seen before and didn't even know what they were. Yeah. The first time I ever swung on a vine, it was just like, wow. Like, this is technology right here. Another side note on video games is video games actually started in America. That's the crazy part to me, because the Japanese people are so much smarter than we are. I guess we got the jump on them. Then they adapted our technology and created some of the greatest things in existence. Not gonna name pick anything, Nintendo, but yeah, Shigeru Miyamoto, yep, all that stuff, yep, good old Pitfall. Watch out for them crocodiles. Oh, he ate me. Let's try this again. Ah, he ate me again. One more again. If you can time it just right, you can land all the jumps on the back of their heads. Even when their mouths are open, you just had to jump at the perfect, precise angle. I used to could, but I don't think I can now. Nope. And that was it with that one. It. Good old It. The cause, allegedly, of the video game crash, which is a stretch in my opinion, because I've read all the reviews. I've read and watched all the conspiracy videos. You know, they really did dump them all dump a lot of the unsold cartridges in a landfill in Mexico or whatever, but I mean, where else were they going to put them? But you have to applaud Atari for even attempting to make this game, especially since Howard Warshaw had to do it all by itself in like 5 weeks or something like that. So I'd like to see you try that. He had the right idea. He was going the right direction. He It didn't have enough time for beta testing and you know, kinks and everything else. This was actually one of the first games where you had to explore and find things. You know, kind of a narrative kind of game. Nothing like this had ever been really done before on a home console. So it was pretty revolutionary. And people say it's the worst game of all time. Trust me, I played plenty of crap games in my life. This is nowhere near the worst game of all time. You'd have to give me a while to think about that one. I never understood what to do in it. I've never beaten it or anything. You can go online now and find out what you need to do and how you beat it and all that. I'll probably do it one of these days. It's not that complicated. It's the only thing that makes it, you know, frustrating are the pits and the pure randomness of everything on this game. But other than that, I mean, like I said, I've played a lot worse, so I don't see, it's not a major problem. But yeah, E.T. One of the greatest movies of all time. I remember me and my dad went and saw, that was the first movie that I had ever seen in a theater. Me and my dad went by ourselves, and then by the end of it, both of us were teary-eyed. That was one of the best memories I have with me and my dad back then, was watching E.T. in the theater and boo-hooing away. Great movie. Mediocre game. But they can't all be winners. But whatever. I wish I had a pet alien. I wouldn't let him go home though. He'd stay right here with me forever. Oh yeah, Missile Command. Now this game, this is the first like real tactical game you could ever play back then. This made you actually feel like you were in the service shooting down missiles. It's pretty awesome. I got really good at this game at one point. Like, until the level started going 90 miles an hour, I could make it all the way to there. And that was about as far as I could go. Oh yeah, you get real good on it, and you can shoot down 2 missiles at once if you time it right. That's all any of these old classic retro games were timing. Timing and positioning. Oh yeah. This was one of the many games that I got with my second Atari. And another thing Atari 2600 did for me in my life, it gave me a very high appreciation for wood paneling. Because back then, everything was made of wood paneling. Some people had toilets with wood paneling on them. Cars had wood paneling on them. That was the thing back then. Your whole house would be paneling. And it was fantastic. It matched everything. And the last one we're going to talk about today is Yar's Revenge. Yar! I like old Yar's Revenge. The main thing that drew me to this game was just how weird it is. Like, okay, so according to the box, I am a bug in space shooting things. That's about all I can say about it. very strange and very difficult. Yeah, Howard Scott Warshaw also created this game, and this right here is like his magnum opus, if you ask me. Very, very good game. Love it, love it, love it. Another fact I found out about this game later down the road was that Yar was actually Ray spelled backwards. And I don't remember the guy's last name, but Ray was one of the top guys in Atari. And so that'll do it for my part 1 of my video game recollection videos. I hope y'all enjoyed it. The Atari 2600 does have a special place in my heart. But next time, we're going to move up to the thing that changed everything in my mind about video games. Hey, whoa, 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 what's going on? Oh no. What in the world happened? Oh well, I always wanted to be a NES. Anyway, tune in next time, and I'll be talking about the Nintendo Entertainment System. My favorite, which is me. See you later. Stay angry. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and all that jazz. I hope I turn back human by then. Later.